Okay, I think we're recording.
Okay,
Hey,
great.
Dave.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. So I
Good.
want to introduce you to everybody who may not know you. This is
Hmm.
Dave Kennedy. He is the CEO of Fidelity Land Title. I see you have your shirt on today. It does have a little green. We're
A little
actually
green.
filming today on St. Patrick's Day.
Yep, yep.
Now, this will go out later, but we could still wish everybody, happy St. Patrick's Day. And you
Yep,
won't get pinched because you've got your green on.
exactly. I had to search through my closet to find something green.
I
So
know, I didn't have anything either, so I had some beads that I
when I,
wore today.
yes, I feel bad because that's our company's colors. So I've got my
Yeah.
cup, my green cup.
I know. I love that cup. I have one too. It's the best. So, Dave, I really appreciate you talking to me today. And
Yeah,
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the cybersecurity or security fraud and wire fraud and things like that, because nowadays, when people are purchasing a house, they have to wire their funds over
right,
to a title company in
right,
order for that down payment, especially if it's anything over $10,000 in
right,
the state of Ohio legally has got to be wired. You can't
right.
just write a check or get a cashier's check or bring a big pile of cash.
Yeah, and it has to be an actual Federal Reserve wire. That's another thing that sometimes people get tripped up with. There's a difference between sending money electronically and sending money electronically via wire transfer.
Yeah.
Most of the money that you transfer and pay, like on a bill online with Duke or something, they do something called an ACH.
Yeah.
But this is actually a Federal Reserve wire that actually goes through the Fed and goes through their clearinghouse. So
Right. What I've been told is that there's several Federal Reserves throughout the United States, and what they do is kind of like a sweep. So
yep.
they work between 9 and 4, and
Mm-hmm.
then they do this sweep like every 15 minutes. Like if you go to your bank and you do a Federal Reserve wire because you're buying a house and you're going to put $20,000, wiring $20,000, then every 15 minutes, the Federal Reserve comes in and kind of sweeps all these wires. It has to
Mm-hmm.
go to the Federal Reserve, and then it goes to wherever the destination is, like Fidelity Title.
Correct. The receiving bank, yeah, but actually goes to the Fed. And that's why we always tell people, make sure you get your wires in at minimum 3 hours before you're closing, because sometimes things happen with the Fed and it does take a little time for the wire to go from one bank to the other. It's not an instant transfer of funds.
Right.
It has to go through that Fed. So we always suggest to people that you give yourself at least 3 hours prior to your closing, or even the day before.
That's usually what I tell people, just to be sure, go the day before.
Right.
I don't care if your closing is 3:00 p.m. the next day. I mean, yes,
Right.
you could go as late as noon, but why take
Right.
the chance?
Right. And you can always reach out to your title company. Hopefully it's me. And I sit there and I can tell you when your money actually hits our account. So you can
Yeah.
rest sure that, we've got the money.
Yeah,
But
you've done that for all my clients, which is
Mhm.
really nice. So I want to give like a quick background. So I like how you're explaining the difference between transferring money to, say, to Duke when you need to pay a bill
Mhm.
versus when you're sending money for your down payment or whatever you need for them. So buying a house, first of all, is like one of probably the largest financial transaction you're going to have in your life.
Right.
I mean, most people, 99% of people,
Yeah.
don't quote me on that stat, by the way.
Yeah. Unless you're buying yachts.
Right, which I am not. But that money, I mean, it's a large chunk of
Mhm.
money. And unfortunately now with technology, there's a lot of wire fraud that happens. So
Correct.
can you tell us a little bit about how you all take precautions and what you all do to help to prevent that wire fraud and from people's money just going off to some hacker?
Right. Yeah. So like you said, this is a very real problem that happens even here in the Cincinnati area. 2019 numbers, 2020 aren't out yet, but $221 million was stolen via this type of fraud in 2019.
Oh my God, just in this type,
Just this
wire
type of
transfers?
wire transfer for real estate transactions, $221 million.
Holy.
And so you can imagine, this is just a series of individual wires getting stolen. So yeah, so this is a very real type of fraud that takes place in our area. It takes place in the region, it takes place in the United States. So like you said, with this type of transaction, it's large sums of money being wired, typically with people that aren't used to wiring money.
Yeah, because a lot of times most people don't buy houses every
Right.
week, right? Unless
Right.
you're an investor.
Right.
But most people, they're going to buy a house maybe once every 5 years, or they're going to stay in this house for 40 years. I mean, I've had somebody who they bought a condo and they had lived in their house for 40 plus years. So this
Yep.
was the first time when they bought their house 40 plus years ago. You bought a little check to the bank,
Yep.
and that was it. It wasn't
And that was it. correct. Well, and the thing is too, and the reason why that this fraud takes place is a lot of, in this situation, there's a lot of moving parts. You've got buyers, you've got sellers, you've got listing agents, you've got selling agents, you've got realtor or lenders, you have a title company. So you have a bunch of different people that maybe aren't used to working together on a regular basis. A lot of people meeting people for the first time. So with all these moving parts, it makes it super easy for a fraudster to be able to sneak into that transaction and try to trick someone. So the whole point of the fraud and what in their whole plan of action is to kind of sneak into the transaction. They're going to monitor the transaction, see everybody talking back and forth about the transaction. And then when it's time to come to wire, they're going to reach out to usually the buyer or the realtor, and they're going to sit there and say, hey, send your money here, opposed to sending your money to the title company. So they're very good at this fraud, and they can time it perfectly. So they know exactly when the email is going to go out for the wire information. And
the emails look like they're coming from the title company, or look like they're coming from a reliable source.
Exactly.
And people say, oh, okay. Oh, great. Yeah, no problem.
Right. And you're expecting the instructions because you've been told that you're going to get them, and then you get them, and it looks like it's coming from me, or it looks like it's coming from you, but it's actually not. It's actually from a fraudster, and they're going to be trying to get you to direct your money elsewhere. And once you send a wire out, it can't be reversed. So a lot of times with these situations of fraud in this industry is as soon as the money leaves your account, it's out of the country within minutes. So as soon as that wire is out, it's very, very hard to get it back. So it's very important that you always verify your wire instructions. So a couple of things that we do at our title companies, we always give you a secure client portal login on our website. And then we also send wire instructions via a program called Certified, which secures the wire instructions. And our goal is always upfront to explain to you how you're going to be receiving your wire instructions from us, and letting you know that there is fraud in the industry and that you do need to be aware of it. And if you get an email at the 11th hour saying to send your instructions, send your wire somewhere else, that you know that it's most likely fake. Yeah. So the whole point of this is to kind of communicate to people, to buyers, to sellers, to anybody in this transaction, this fraud is taking place, and that you just need to be aware that it is taking place, and that, just take precautions. And then the number one thing that I always tell people is call to verify the instructions. It's super simple. If you get an email from someone saying to send your money there, call to verify. And don't use the phone number that you get in the email. Go to our website, fidelitylandtitle.com, and find our phone number and call us that way.
I want to really drive this point home, because so I do know somebody. This was not my own personal client. This was another realtor friend of mine who had a client who this exact situation happened to. Mm-hmm. They were not using Fidelity. Yeah. And they had $25,000 taken. Yeah. But I want to drive this point home to verify this. So I tell my buyers the same thing. When you get these wire instructions, they're not going to come from me. They're going to come from Fidelity. Correct. And they're going to come in a secure portal. So when you get these, call Fidelity and look up there. I'm going to give you their number. Don't get it off the, call them and ask them if they sent it, so you can absolutely verify. I drive that point home, and I'm glad you guys do too.
Yeah. And there's another thing that we have is available is if you go to our website, fidelitylandtitle.com/cybercrime, there's information on this type of fraud. There's a little video that shows you how the fraudsters kind of sneak into the transaction, and kind of some red flags to watch out for. One thing that we always tell people in cybercrime is that one thing that you're always going to see as a red flag is this sense of urgency. If you get an email that says it needs to be right now, this has changed, this is your last chance, you're going to lose the house, you need to do this, you need to do that.
Don't do
That's
it.
always a red flag to be aware, because that's not how we operate. We're going to try to be out in front. And that's why I say, go to our website, fidelitylandtitle.com/cybercrime, and kind of inform yourself on the type of fraud that takes place in our business. I know you mentioned somebody with 25,000. I know of another situation in Cincinnati. It was not my title company, but somebody lost close to $220,000 on a new house, and it was just gone. So
I just can't even imagine.
They were pretending to be the title company, and I believe that the fake fraudster pretended to be the title company, sent the email to the realtor forwarded it on to the client, and then the
Oh.
client sent the money to the wrong place. So,
And I'm sure it was just like, oh, I'm busy. I'll just quick forward this on to my
right,
client. Like,
right.
didn't even think twice about it. I know. And
Well,
those emails look real.
and they look legit. Like they said, they take, our domain is fidelitylandtitle.com. It's so easy to put Fidelity Land Lytle, that
Yeah.
look, the T and the L, switch it in a quick glance. It looks like the exact email address, but it's not.
And I know what the person that was telling me about their client was that the numbers that they had to wire, like they had a transaction type number and it was off by one number.
Yep.
And it was it was like the difference between a 6 and an 8, which
Yep.
again, if you don't have your glasses on or you're looking at
Right.
your clothes
Right.
or you just assume that it's correct, you'll do
Right.
it. So,
And a lot of times they've hacked into the email and they know the figures. They've seen the settlement statement. They know exactly what to ask you. They know when your closing is going to take place. They know when to reach out. They have it down to a science. That's why they were able to steal $221 million in 2019.
I know. And I think I shouldn't have done that, but I was cursing when you said that.
Mm-hmm. It's just wild. It is. It's a very real thing. So,
well, I'm going to include your website with that link to the cybersecurity video and information. I think it'll be really helpful for people because, again, this is a real thing. And I appreciate what you guys do because you guys are always one step ahead and trying to make sure that you're protecting the clients and everyone involved in the transaction. And I for one, really appreciate it. I know my clients do. So,
well, we certainly love working with them. So,
well, thank you, Dave. Dave Kennedy, Fidelity Land Title. Always appreciate you. You're always full of knowledge, and I appreciate your insight and all your wisdom for such a youthful face that you have.
Title will keep you young.
Is that true? I don't know.
No.
I know real estate doesn't keep you young. All right. Thanks, Dave.
All right. Thanks.